Design of materials for listening and speaking skills by Marisol Celis. Resource presentation. The virtual learning object shows relevant aspects to take into account when designing material for listening and speaking skills. Objectives. To present recommendations for designing materials focused on listening and speaking skills. Listening tips to design listening activities for face-to-face environments. Listening materials in a face-to-face environment should be designed taking into account characteristics of the students such as age, level of knowledge, learning styles, and other characteristics that are specific to learning. This should include authentic materials such as recordings of real conversations, movies, music, and more, so that the students learn about the actual use of the language. The activities should include different types of listening, such as intensive, selective, interactive, extensive, receptive, and autonomous, because it will help to contextualize the expressions of the language. Materials should be designed to improve listening skills through progressive activities. Activities should include current topics of interest to students so that they are motivated. Listening tips to design listening activities for online language environments. Materials must be accessible to ensure that all students can use them. Materials should be attractive to attract the attention of students and that they are open to developing them. Activities should be varied to stimulate student interest and should be challenging for a student to want to develop. Authentic materials should be included to help a student acquire the language through natural use. The activities must be in accordance with the level of knowledge of the students to be understood. Speaking tips to design speaking activities for face-to-face environments. The materials should use different topics to tell the student acquire vocabulary. Activities should be done through tasks that help improve students' speaking skill. Authentic materials should be used because they are made by English speakers and use spontaneous and natural language. Activities should be designed to practice speaking, that is, to develop speech and not just reading. The materials should contain words and expressions that are familiar to students because this will help them better understand the language. Speaking tips to design speaking activities for online language environments. Materials should be easily accessible to all students so that they can use them. Activities in this environment should also include authentic materials for students to practice real communication in the English language. Activities in this environment facilitate interaction, which is very important for speaking skill. The materials should use apps that are designed to practice speaking skills, which aid in the learning and development of this. Activities should be designed with topics of interest to students to motivate them to learn. Conclusions. Authentic materials are very important in the design of materials for listening and speaking skills because they show the natural use of the language. Listening and speaking materials should be designed to enhance the performance of these activities and not to test them. Listening and speaking skills are very necessary to acquire the language, and the material must comply with the design principles in both face-to-face and virtual environments. And these are two references on we can find more information about design to materials for listening and speaking skills. Thanks for your attention.